Hi there. How do we know that neurofeedback actually changes the brain? This is part two in this series. I did another video looking at examples of training to show you some specific ways the brain actually changes to reduce anxiety and busy mind during a session. Now, does it last? Does it stick? Does it really make a difference over time? So here we have an example for someone who trained over a 6-month period of time, roughly. Uh, we see their eyes closed map here initially with a lot of alpha busy mind and a lot of beta, which means high anxiety, pressured thinking, a lot of fear. And here we see the same map about 6 months later. And we see that alpha is coming down considerably. And her front, at least on the frontal region, you see where beta has come down as well. So red is high, yellow is very high. 2 standard deviations high, and then green is normal, and light blue is a little low, dark blue is very low. So here we see, in this example, we're mostly interested in alpha, and you see how it's went from dominantly red to dominantly green, and beta also went from dominantly red, high beta, to pretty much equal beta, right? But the whole frontal region, the area of the frontal lobe, uh, the combination of what you see here has produced not only a slowing of the busy mind, but much, much less anxiety. This person is able to go out in public now, has no phobias, no panic attacks, normal anxiety, what you might think of as normal anxiety, but everyone tends to experience. But this is a significant shift for someone who's dominantly home training with neurofeedback. Okay, here's another map example of another client. Uh, this person has only trained about 36 sessions, predominantly in office, but we can see that what we're looking for, generally speaking, is to move uh, from particularly yellow in this particular case, which is extreme, to red or green. That's going to be extremely good. That's going from a very high amplitude of either delta, theta, alpha, or beta, uh, down to a less extreme dysregulation. So we want to see more green, basically. If not, more red, a little bit of light blue. And so we can see here that you see all this yellow and red here. And now we see just a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red, more green, a little bit of light blue. The dark blue, which is extremely low, now is less extreme. So everything here is within 1 standard deviation with the exception of these 2 yellow spots and this yellow spot there. Then here with beta, we see a couple spots remaining, but by and large, we see a movement toward away from the extremes. You see the dark blue up here, extremely low. Here it's low, normal, normal, a little bit high even here. So generally, this is a good example. This is a more, this is one of our older clients, above 65. And so she's interested in memory, clarity of mind, and predominantly better sleep and less anxiety, however. And so she's getting all of that after less than 40 sessions. Things are improving dramatically for her. A good example, though, of how the brain is moving. You see, these are the extremes. The yellow, see here, this extreme 2+ standard deviations. Dark blue, 2+ standard deviations on the low side to the high side. Then you go to her remap, and then you see that we only have, sorry about that. We have 1, 2, 3 here that are extremely high, and then we have 3 over here. These 3 are actually produced by what you see here with high beta. This is muscle tension on the forehead and temples, and here over the ears, just TMJ. This extreme elevation is actually producing this here. So this is, in reality, even a better map than what it looks like here on beta. But overall, again, we see the extremes, right, becoming less and less extreme with fewer than 40 sessions of training. A really excellent remap for her, given what she was experiencing, how symptomatically things are improved, and to see her brain change that much in less than 3 months. Here's another map, a good example, about 10 weeks of training with this gentleman, mid-40s. You see in his first map, you see a lot of low power, significantly low power, right? A little bit high power here. But you see where across the board, you see how much more green there is here in his map, particularly compared to the extremes, right? This dark blue has disappeared here for theta and for alpha. Now, the one little location has popped up there for it's a little bit degraded, but that happens. The brain doesn't move in a perfectly straight line, but we're looking at the majority of movement, and we can see how much of a change. And what does this translate to? Well, he was having significant memory problems. That's dramatically improved. He's also having problems with he works as a professional and in certain situations, but get easily confused, kind of forget where he was at. Not in an Alzheimer's kind of way, but not as tight and precise as he'd like to be. And you see here where this is improved, so he's able to process information better and think through problems a little better with that increased beta. But again, I'm just wanting to show you that the brain does change with neurofeedback. These are significant changes. So here's an example with a child. I think this young man is 9 or 10 years old. You can see the amount of dysregulation with his slow wave activity. The slow wave is delta, theta, and alpha. You see all of this extreme elevation creates a condition called underarousal. And you see here in his remap about four months later that we have less red and yellow, particularly here for theta, right? We see a little more elevation here for alpha. But you can see also where the software wants an adjustment down for interpretive purposes, but I'm showing you the sort of raw data so you can see how the brain changes. It doesn't change perfectly. And this is extreme. This is an extreme elevation. Some of this elevation you're looking at here is 4 to 6 standard deviations above the norm. I can make an adjustment. I'll bring them both down 1 standard deviation. So this is a different view, but again, you can see how the extremes are starting to disappear, right? You can see that even this is the adjusted view of the original map, the adjusted view of the remap. And so we have more in the green, or this area is showing up light blue, a little bit low because we've adjusted it down. So, but it helps to give you a contrast so that you can see again how the brain's shifting. Now, what does this do for us, for example? This has a lot to do with impulsivity, better emotional regulation, focusing, doing better in the classroom, doing better at home, particularly this elevated theta. So this is a situation, I think it's a fascinating situation, where we're working with a young man, mid-20s, unemployed, and we remapped him. He was not reporting any improvements. We remapped him, and we see that we went from some green, light blue, to losing power across the board. Now, this sort of thing doesn't make any sense since we're training the brain in the opposite direction. And so I was talking with him and about this a couple times, and I didn't learn anything. I'd recommended a number of medical tests based upon this. I won't go into that here just to see if there's something going on. But then there was a little crisis moment, and it was revealed that he had been consuming for 6 months straight, pretty much, enormous amount of THC, enormous amounts of THC. When I say enormous, staggering, really. But it's interesting because you can then see the impact on the brain, which neurofeedback cannot overcome the dosing of the brain 3 to 5 times a day with lots of THC. But as an example how the brain can change in response to severe environmental conditions, head trauma, drugs, that sort of thing. Okay, and finally, one more example, a young man, age 10, I believe. You can see this frontal elevation here for theta, right? Particularly the extremes, that yellow 2+ standard deviations. And you see how much of this frontal theta is now in the green, which we focused on intensely because this correlates to a lot of ADHD types of symptoms. Impulsivity for this young man was an extreme problem. A lack of progress academically. He did not like school, wasn't doing well in school. And over the course of this academic year, went from that sort of poor performing, underachieving, and not focusing to winning an academic award at the conclusion of the school year. And so his parents were thrilled. You also see the extremes coming down here onto this remains elevated, but this has a lot to do with the amount of simple carbs, which remains a challenge to master there. We also see where he has a lot of extreme low power beta, which also produces those ADHD type symptoms. And we see it's coming up. There's nothing in the dark blue anymore. We got some green coming up. So things are trending in the right direction. But the amount of gain for this young man over the course of a 6 to 8 month period is remarkable, not just behaviorally, but academically. And once again, that we can see that in the map. We never see a perfect map. It doesn't work like this, but we're looking to bring those extremes to the center, and that's what neurofeedback is able to do. So once again, if you have questions about yourself, your child, whether this can be useful or helpful for you, I'm happy to speak with you personally. Just reach out using one of the contact numbers you'll see on our website, or sign up for a free consult with me, either at hometrainyourbrain.com or at Capital District Neurofeedback. Alrighty, hope to hear from you. Take care. Thank you.